Yo, what's going on, everyone? A live video today, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about is actually a bit of a self reflection because anytime you do something in life, you always think about the man. I could have did it this way, or I should have did it this way, or if I would have done it this way, would it have turned out a little bit different? So in this video, I'm going to answer the question, why in the hell did it take, my wife and I'll say my wife and I 11 years to actually finally focus on paying our student loans. Now, we know what the triggering event was. A medical thing just kind of said, you know what, let's get our shit together. But why did we wait 11 years? What was it? And I'm going to tell y'all, a big gap in that time was just our fault because we were being hard headed. But hey, that's a part of growth, knowing when you should be accountable for your own mistakes. So I'm Marcus. Let's dive in. You're at the channel, The Debt Free Dad, where we're talking finances, financial takes, financial topics, and I'm just letting y'all know what we got going on, what we got cracking in the household of the Debt Free Dad. Before I even start with this video, anybody out here who is in Florida, hey, prayers for y'all. I want y'all to be safe. So hey, definitely hope everybody's safe down there in Florida because it's crazy and Mother Nature is wild. Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Yeah, I'm hard headed. Yeah, I'm really hard headed. It's a terrible thing actually. You probably I don't know if you can you tell I'm hard headed from my videos. I'm kind of a self proclaimed know it all. That's one of my biggest problems, but I am aware of it and I try to make an effort to be receptive of other opinions, other thoughts, and other perspective on things. But it's something that I got to really make an over effort to do. And it's funny because some of my hard headedness is, I literally just had this conversation, but a lot of times the thing that is your strongest asset is also your biggest liability. So, like my strongest asset is my ability to make decisions that relatively turn out well. I mean, I had decisions that I've made that got me through a lot of nonsense, got me through a war zone in Iraq, gotten me through law school, gotten me through a whole lot of things and obstacles. So when you always rely on your decisions, my problem is it really makes me reluctant to listen to outside feedback. So I actually have to make a hard effort to think about what I'm doing and be receptive to other perspectives because there's different ways that you could do stuff. You know what I mean? So that's is a good thing and a bad thing. But I decided to just kind of reflect and like, damn, I graduated law school and 11 years went by before I said, you know what, let me kind of tackle my student loan. And so I'm gonna explain it. Is really three stages. The first stage is, hey, graduation, graduate with a bunch of law school debt. I actually had to take a loan out. It's called a bar loan. I actually had to get a bar loan. It was for a small amount of money, but I had to get a bar loan out just so I could have enough financial resources to actually be able to study for the bar. So I didn't have to, because you don't want to have to study for a bar exam or something like that and you're juggling work, trying to work, it could just be complicated. So let's talk about three stages. It was a 3.5 to 4 year period. Then it was another 3.5 to 4 year period. Then, after that, we're talking, another, 3 year period. So it's three separate instances that we're going to really focus on here. That first time frame, let's pick it up at graduating law school, waiting for the bar's results, got 6 months before the loan payments start. And it was just one of those things where, and I don't know if y'all been there, I'm sure we've all been there, where you're either unemployed or underemployed. So literally for the first 3.5 years after graduating law school and being able to actually practice law, I probably couldn't pay off my student loans if I wanted to because I was kind of underemployed. Now, I will tell you the advantage and benefit was that I made nothing. I made nothing. I don't know. I think my income was like 39 or $41,000 or something like that, and it literally stayed the same for like 3 years. It was terrible. It was terrible. But and that's not a terrible salary, but that's when you got a combined $239,000 of student loan debt, a mortgage, 4-year-old and a newborn baby. It was just kind of a lot to deal with. So those first 3 to 4 years, it was really problematic because I was just underemployed. Making $40,000. There was a period where that was the only income. Then my wife got a job. Then my daughter was born. Then it was daycare costs. And at one point, I don't know, like shout out to all the parents who don't have to go through daycare because I know y'all happy, but paying for daycare was crazy. At one point, I lie to you not, my daycare cost for the month was actually higher than the mortgage on my home. It was like I might as well just went to work, signed the back of my check, and handed it over to the daycare people, or just worked at the daycare, or just stayed at home and been Mr. Mom or something. Because the expenses were just that much. So that first stage is a relatively easy stage because we was broke as hell. Now I will tell you, my job did have a program where they would help you pay your student loan, but they would only kind of supplement your payment. So they would give you maybe half of what the minimum was. And I mean, when you're talking hundreds of $1,000s in student loan at a 6% clip, the problem is making the minimum payments is not going to be really conducive to paying it down. So that was the first 3 years. I was just underemployed. I was early in my career, had to put my bones in, had to grind. That was kind of the name of the game. Now let's talk about the next 4-year period or 3.5-year period. All right. After that underemployment stage where, I was making, that 39 to $41,000 or something to that effect. Yeah, daycare is ridiculous. And yeah, once you have two children, it's more cost effective to stay home. Yeah, that's true. I mean, daycare was so crazy. Luckily, I will tell you, we actually put some thought into when we wanted to have our second child. And the reason being is because we wanted to avoid paying daycare at the same time, and we wanted to avoid potentially paying for college at the same time for both kids. That's the reason we had them 4 years apart. But my son's birthday is like really late. So it was this weird period of overlap where like my son was, because of his birthday, he was too young to start school. So he was in daycare and my newborn was in daycare. And it was like a 4 or 5 month period. And that 4 or 5 month period was hell. It was no joke. So yeah, daycare is real. If you want a real side hustle, open up a daycare. Don't work for a daycare, but if you actually open up a daycare, I don't care if it's a small facility, you are going to make a killing because, I mean, even it was people who just to reserve a spot, they would pay full-time prices, or they would be like, okay, I'll sign up full-time for prices just to lock in this slot now, even though I'm going to need it part-time. People were willing to do that just because daycare is just such a big deal. And it's crazy that it shouldn't be that much of a burden, but that's a whole nother story that I won't go down at this point. So, all right, after the period of being unemployed, it was a 4-year run where everything was my fault, everything was my wife's fault. So after, I want to say it was 2013, about 2013, I had an opportunity to essentially double my income. So that 39,000, that 40,000, it turned into high 80,000s real quick. So what is I don't know, maybe y'all are a lot smarter than me. Y'all are a lot smarter than me, but and it happened on both sides. So my wife ended up getting a job, making a little more money. I got a job where I essentially doubled or more than doubled my income. So for probably the next 2 years, what we did was, I don't know what anybody would do. We were smart with the point of, you know what, let's catch up on everything we got. So, we kind of got out of the rat race. Weren't, behind on anything. We got caught up on everything. But our plan at that point was, you know what, we got a little bit of excess now. We're gonna make sure everything is paid up to date, and we pay the bare minimum on all of our stuff. And while we pay the bare minimum on all of our stuff, you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna enjoy this shit. We're gonna enjoy this money because we never had money to do anything before. So it kind of got a little bit ridiculous. I'm gonna be honest, like I don't know. I would probably say, and this is a lot of vacations. This is coming from a real privileged standpoint, but I would probably say we would take 2 vacations a year, maybe one out of the country, and maybe one out of the country, one inside the U.S. Then my wife would always, and she still does it, but my wife would take a trip with her friends because they go to celebrate somebody's birthday or whatever the hell it is that y'all women do when y'all traveling. So she would go do her woman thing once a year, and me, I'm not a guys trip. Like, I don't know, that sounds kind of weird. I don't think guys take guys trips. I don't know. I never met a group of guys like, hey y'all, let's go to. I mean, maybe when you're in your 20s, but I don't want to go to Jamaica with a bunch of guys. That's something I want to do. But what I did, my fancy is sporting events, boxing, stuff like that. So anytime it was a big fight at Madison Square Garden, I'd be like, all right, I'm gone. Even if it was just I leave on Friday just to go see the fight in New York, come back Sunday. But we burned a lot of money just because we were at that point where, man, we actually got some money to spend now. So let's kind of enjoy it. And so that whole 4-year run was, I mean, it was two things. It was us just being kind of stupid. It was us kind of being stupid, but it was also, I guess, I don't know. Y'all have I guess the best way to explain it is it was kind of like we have these same reactions as if you're a child. I remember being a child when I was a kid, and my shoe game was always terrible. I always had the wackest shoes. So once I got a job, I mean, no matter what was going on, my shoe game was always awesome. So it was kind of that same mentality that we just were holding on to as adults. You know what? We weren't able to do all of these things or half all of this stuff. So you know what we're going to do? We're going to travel. We're going to go out a lot. So, I mean, down and out restaurants, travel. We really didn't make any big purchases. I'll tell you that I don't think that our problem when it came to spending money was never really a big purchase type of thing. It was just more of we didn't track anything and we were just really living in the moment. That was just kind of what the name of the game was, so to speak. Yeah, they do that too. I've seen people do that too. They paying for daycare, baby not even in their third trimester, and they paying for daycare just to hold the spot. That's gonna be my next hustle. Everybody else talking my next hustle. Everybody, y'all talking REITs and house hacking. I'm gonna start a damn daycare. DFD. It's not gonna be called a debt-free daycare because the company gonna be debt-free, but the people paying for the services, y'all gonna be in debt to me. Because the bill gonna be so damn high. It's insane, especially if you're in a city like DC or New York. Like, it's crazy. I lie to you now. We went to one daycare and it didn't even have separate rooms. It was like an entire. It was not even. It was not even separate rooms. It was just, imagine an open area, and they had like these makeshift walls that they put up to separate the kids, so you could hear the 3-year-olds playing from the 2-year-olds, and they was charging something crazy. I'm talking about $700, $800, $900 a month, depending on the age of the child, and the kids not even in their own encapsulated room. It was the craziest shit I ever seen. But yeah, so the first 3 years we was broke as hell and we really couldn't make the progress. The next 3 to 4 years, we just kind of just did our own thing. And like I said, it never came from overspending. We really weren't big overspenders when it came to stuff. We never ran out and got like overpriced, expensive ass cars. I mean, honestly, we never really got like big ass mortgages or anything like that. That's just kind of never been our fancy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, we got cars that look nice, but they old as hell. They never cost us more than, $15,000 or something. Something we would always get and could pay off in a year to 24 months. Our big problem was just experiences, eating out, and that was just it. If it's something we were going to do, We would do it with no regard, no thought for a budget, no thought for a plan, no thought for anything. Now, we did make a few smart moves in that 4 year period where we were just kind of being excessive and wasteful. And, the reason I wanted to talk about why it took me 11 years to even really focus on my student loans and focus on that student loan debt is because Friday, I actually got some advice on how to proceed and move forward on my debt freedom, financial freedom journey from Pocket Watcher with JT. Shout out to JT. Y'all check out his channel. Very good content. He's a certified financial planner, and he gave me some gems live on the air when I called in on the show. So we're going to go over that and talk about that. But before I figure out how I should move moving forward, I wanted to give the background on how in the hell I got here in the first place. And so we did make some smart moves while we were excessively spending. Smart move number one, like I said, we didn't over leverage ourselves with stuff. Now I'm not gonna say over leverage, because to me, I think of over leverage as carrying debt. We didn't over leverage ourselves with stuff, but we did overspend when it came to experiences, when it came to traveling, when it came to doing absolutely everything else. So like I said, we didn't have the overpriced house where the payment was something that was just too ridiculous for us to afford. We didn't have the overpriced car payments. So that was, I guess a smart thing that we did. We didn't kind of over leverage ourselves with, debt for houses and cars. We had credit card debt, but we always kept it within arm's reach. It wasn't nothing like a 30,000, 40,000. I mean, there's people out there with $60,000 in credit card debt. I can't even rationalize that. But we relatively kept our credit card debt, even though we had it, we carried a balance. It wasn't something that was just overburdensome or overwhelming. I mean, I want to say on a high end, we probably got it to $10,000. On the low end, on average, it probably was anywhere between $3,000 to $4,000 that we kind of just had in circulation that we were making payments on every month. Now, I know those are high numbers for some people, but it is what it is. At this point, I was making high $80,000. My wife was probably somewhere in the $70,000, $80,000 range. So, $160,000 of combined household income. $10,000 credit card debt wasn't something that was just going to beat the brakes off you. So, those are some of the smart things we did. We didn't over leverage ourselves with cars and houses, and we didn't get too deep to where we couldn't dig a hole out of our credit card debt. The main thing that we did, what was smart, was during this time, we really aren't paying off our student loans. And our whole mentality was, fuck those student loan people. I hope we die owing them, and that way I'll feel better about the situation. So the smartest thing I think that we did during this time, even though we didn't pay off our student loans, we started contributing to our 401k and to our IRAs and all of those type of things. We didn't max them out, but we knew, hey, if we contribute, when your income is higher, if you relatively live a modest lifestyle and you can, most people, they say, oh, you should contribute 10 to 15% for investments. But if you make, let's say an example, somebody had a household income of $500,000 a year and you contribute 5%. On the back end during retirement, if you can curtail your lifestyle, that 5% of $500,000 that you've been investing for 20 or 30 years will be easy to move with. So, we weren't making $500,000, but we realized and identified, what? Let's start putting money in these investment accounts and let them just do what they're going to do. Let them grow. We're going to do everything else wrong, but the one thing we're going to do right is continue to invest in our investment accounts. And at one point, we got up to, we probably were investing maybe 15 to 17% at one point. So we did make some good moves with that regard. Now, here's where I guess things kind of took a turn. So we had 3 years of broke assness. Then we had a 4-year period of idiocracy where we were just spending. But one of the smart things we did was contribute to our 401k and our IRA, right? Now, as we move into the last phase, we talk about, let's say 8 years went by. So we talk about, the year 9, 10, and 11. Year 9, 10, and 11, we decide, let's start paying off our student loans. But before we got into our student loans, and I don't know if this was smart or dumb, this is something I'm going to talk a little bit about more in depth on Friday. But There's different type of all this financial independence, retire early stuff. I mean, I just think that shit is overrated. You know why I think it's overrated? Because I know one person. I know one person who retired early, and I ain't talking about retire early. Like I know people who retired at 60, 57. That's early. But I'm talking about I know one person who retired early and don't do shit. Like for me, retirement isn't like if you retire early from your job, but you putting out YouTube videos every day, good luck, brother, because that's work. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that the employment that you're doing isn't something that you enjoy more than when you did your 9 to 5 or whatever, but that's still work. So I think the whole financial independence, retire early thing is just like, I don't know. I just think it's one of those. You talk about overrated or underrated. I think it's overrated because there's very few people who retire early who just relax and enjoy it and live off the fruits of their labor. Yeah, there's a handful out there, but most people are doing something else. You just retired from one job to a job that you may enjoy more. So it is overrated to me. So, on that back end, the last 3 years, after we had the broke assness, after we went stupid, but were contributing to our retirement accounts, I had this idea. And I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea, but this was the idea I had. I sat down one day and I calculated the numbers. And I said, when we retire, when me and my wife retire, if our home is paid for, our cars is paid for, we don't owe anybody anything. Everything we own, our houses are owned outright. How much money would we need in retirement to be able to live off? So I sat down, I went on the computer, I crunched a whole lot of numbers, and I agree. I agree. Yeah, that's why I just don't get excited over the fire thing. I was just telling somebody today, like, I would never retire and not do nothing. Even when I'm old as hell, I'm gonna take on 1 or 2 clients and scoot my old crusty ass to the courthouse just so I could be out in the mix around people. But I agree, and I don't know how people be doing 3 hours live. I'd be thirsty as hell after flapping my gums for 15 minutes. But I agree with your point completely. For me, the acronym I always use is FIFU, financial independence. Fuck you, because I just want to know in the back of my mind I have that ability to tell any employer, you know what? Fuck you. I don't want to do this no more. Not that, hey, I actually like my job. I got a great set of coworkers. I love the work that I do. So, it's not really work for me because I enjoy it. But I feel like that gives you some flexibility and some peace of mind. So I'm not a fire guy, but I'm a big FIFU guy. Financial independence, fuck you if you're getting on my nerves to my employer. But so far, so good. So, I sat down and crunched the numbers. Like I was saying, I thought, if everything is paid off and I'm retire at 60, that was the number. If I retire at 60 and everything is paid off, how much money would I need to be able for my wife and I to live comfortably, be able to do what we want, not ball out, but you just live a good life. And that number that I came up with was $1.2 million. Now, I don't know if you all have a retirement number. I think it's good to have a retirement number, not to just work and do something blindly. I'm gonna just put money away, and in 30 years, I hope everything work out. I think that's a bad approach. I mean, some people do it, but I think it's best for me. I had to put a number in place because it gives me a goal to reach to. So once I came up with $1.2 million, $1.2 million at the age of 60, that was my low point. So the next thing that I said I was going to do is I want to invest enough money so that so if I don't invest another dime in that money, if I wait until the age I'm 60, 22, 23 more years, whatever it is, by the time that money grows over those years, it'll be at my minimum of $1.2 million. So the next thing I had to sit down and come up with was another number. I had to sit down and think of a number and say, okay, 1.2 million is my minimum in retirement at the age of 60. How much do I need invested right now to reach 160? I mean, to reach 160, to reach 1.2 million at the age of 60 if I never contribute another dime. So, of course, I go back to the calculator. I calculated everything on interest rates. And so based on the numbers, the number that I came up with was $239,000. If I could invest $239,000, and I actually did the returns relatively modest. I did the returns of like something like 7.5% or something like that, even though the market normally does above that on average. But I did everything modest because I wanted to be worst case scenario. So it was about $239,000. At the time I did this equation, let's say I had 22, 23 years until I was 60. So I said, okay, if I could save up $239,000 and never put anything else in that investment account, by the time I'm 60, that shit will be worth $1.2 million. So 3 years of broke assness, 4 years of stupidity with a smart thing of not getting too over leveraged in car and house debt and contributing to our 401k and our Roth IRA. Then that next 3 year period, we were in a point of, well, we could have actually attacked and paid off our student loan. But once I sat down and calculated those numbers, I thought, I'm not going to start paying my student loans off aggressively until I reach that minimum amount in my investment accounts that will get me at $1.2 million by the time I'm 60. So that was, kind of what my thought process was. Something with retirement accounts that is not discussed. People are over saving to a point where taxes they will be paying are more than what their pre-retirement. Yeah, I agree. And that's the other thing too, especially, as your income start to develop and you get a higher income, you really got to be cautious of what vehicle you are using to contribute to your retirement, like a Roth IRA has a household income limit that I rarely hear people talk about. You know what I mean? So that's definitely something you got to take into consideration. What's going on? And thank you for joining in. I appreciate it. And so $1.2 million was the number I identified as the minimum. $239,000 was what I needed invested to reach that minimum if I never contribute or did anything else. So at that point, I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead and figure out how we're going to do this. So we start investing in retirement accounts aggressively. 401ks, we were maxing out. IRAs, we was putting money in. And about a year and a half ago, because it was before I reached the age of 40. So, literally on my 39th birthday, a year and a half ago, so we actually hit that dollar amount. So we actually hit that dollar amount of having that minimum amount of $239,000 invested. So if we stop investing at this point and don't do anything else, hey, by the time I'm 60, 1.2 mil, home, cars, all the essential stuff will be paid for. We can draw down on that money and do well in retirement. So that was kind of the thought process. Now, it could have went a couple other ways because, in hindsight, we probably could have said, you know what, let's just not let's not over invest, right? Let's not invest. Let's just take care of the student loans and then invest completely afterwards. But I think there's two assumptions. I think the first assumption is I would be assuming that we are going to do the right thing with that money. We probably wouldn't have. If the money that we were investing, trying to reach that $239,000 minimum in our investment and retirement accounts to get to our minimum retirement number of 1.2 million. If we weren't investing that money, we probably would have jacked that money off, traveling or dining out or on some buying exorbitant Christmas gifts for each other. We probably would have blew that money in some form or fashion. So I think the assumption of, we could have paid it off at this time when we were investing heavy, I think that's just I think that's not a fair assessment because we probably would have screwed that money up. I don't know if y'all are like this, but when I make up a budget, like prime example, my mortgage payment is going down $300. So in theory, I'm like, I got $300 additional to put on my student loans. But of that $300, I would say probably 75 to 100 is going to get lost in the sauce somewhere. So, we like to think that, if I don't do this with this money, I'll repurpose this money for that. But a lot of times, I don't know about y'all, but for me, that's not the case. If I got money set up to automatically come out and do something. If I say, oh, I'm cutting off all of my investments, I'm probably gonna screw off a percentage of that money I would have been investing. Now I will probably pay more to the debt. So I don't think that's a fair assumption to make that we would have actually done the right thing, had we not paid off our or had we not invested and just focused on paying our debt. So I think that's kind of point number one. You know what I mean? Yeah, that's what it is. You just that's isn't that the right example? You when you waste money on stuff, you kind of jack it off. That means you think about it. You use the money for this one momentary pleasure. you use the money for one you use the money for a short period of time to do something that you want to do to get this small brief enjoyment, and then after that is over with and you tired and like, where the hell did my money go? So I think that actually might be a good analogy. You know what I mean? Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, yeah. Hey, that's another good point, though. That's another good point. Hey, when I'm not about to go down that hole with y'all today. I'm not fooling with y'all. But yeah, I think that's a true statement. Yeah. So yeah, we gonna use that. Don't jack off your financial resources and your money. Don't use it for something that gives you a moment of pleasure that you probably ain't gonna remember or appreciate, a year from now. so that's gonna be the phrase for now on when we blow buddy. But so that's kind of where we landed with it. And so now, and I actually put a poll up. Now I'm at this point where we have enough invested to where if we didn't do anything else, we would meet our bare minimum of 1.2 million once I reach the age of 60. Presuming I'm assuming I'm gonna retire at 60. But if I reach the age of 60, 1.2 million, we actually satisfied that dollar amount, and we're still putting money in. But now that gives us a lot of other options. And I tell you, I don't know. It gives us a lot of other options. For me, I'm content with the pace with which we are paying off our student loans. You know what I mean? I mean, to be at for loan A to be at $109,000 of February last year, and is at about $38,000 now. I'm content with that pace because that pace allows us to make progress, but it also allows us to be able to budget and have some wiggle room to do some of the things we want to do. Like right now, my wife is about to go on her annual women's retreats, and I'd be so happy. I'm telling you, I really enjoy when my wife go on her, like girls trips. Oh man, it's so peaceful. Normally, I'm a little pissed off though, because normally when my wife go on a girls trip, she don't know this, but when my wife go on a girl trip, I normally go talk to my moms, and I'd be like, "Hey, can you watch the kids for a day or two?" And I literally just want to be left the hell alone to do nothing. But would you believe? Uh-oh, sorry about that. Sorry about that. But yeah, I was saying my mother is going out of town the same damn time that my wife is going out of town. So now I don't got nobody to drop the kids off for a day to give me ultimate peace and quiet. Who the hell told them to plan their out of town trips at the same time? I don't know. I don't know if this was a ploy designed to keep me in the house with the kids. Not that I got anything to do. Yeah, not that I got anything special that I want to do. Sometimes I just don't want to be bothered. But hey, what's going on? That's funny. Yeah, but so that was really what took us the entire 11 years to really actually give a damn about student loans. Three parts: broke assness, then we jacked off our money, then we jacked off our money. But while we were just jacking off our money, we did make our contributions to our 401k and our retirement plan. Then the last 3 years, before we started attacking our student loan, we were focused on getting enough in our investment account to meet our minimum goal for retirement if we never invested another dollar. So we hit that threshold about a year and a half ago. That amount was $239,000. Mathematically, if we never contribute another dime to it, by the time I turn 60, that'll be about $1.2 million in those retirement accounts. And that would be enough to sustain us, considering the expectation would be that, there's no house payments, there's no car payments, there are none of those things around, so that would be the expectation. Yeah, they did. I think they did that shit on purpose. Pardon my language, but yeah, they messed up on my whole chill moment. You know what I mean? I don't do anything. Every time I have the house to myself, I think like, oh man, and listen to the stuff I like to do. When I do have the house to myself, like, okay, under normal circumstances, my wife will go on a girls trip, and I never tell my wife that I tell my mother to watch the kids. I just want my wife to think that I'm just here struggling with the kids all by my lonesome. When she get home, I'm like, woo, man, yeah, me and the kids, we did our thing. But, a couple days, moms will hook me up. But this is kind of what I would plan. I don't plan anything. I would plan, hey, I wake up a little late. I might go get me some breakfast at one of my favorite breakfast spots. Go home. I might, chill out a little bit for a while, maybe watch a little bit of TV, go to the range, go shoot some rounds down range, get some nice little training in. Maybe go over one of my boys' house. One of my good friends stayed like directly across the street from my mother. So I maybe go over his house, sit around with his family, chop it up, talk football and reminisce. And that's about it. It's not like when they leave, I got really big plans to do anything exciting. Sometimes I want to just be left the hell alone, sit around in the house and relax and eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch. And I deserve to do that. But nah, these two, I'm not gonna call the ladies of my life heifers, because that's my mother's word. But these two chuckleheads wanted to plan their vacation at the same time, and they completely infringed on my right to be alone in my own solitude for a day or two. So I'm definitely upset about it. Hey, the phrase makes sense. So that's the new phrase that I'm rolling with when you make a bad monetary or bad financial decision. So but yeah, that's it. That's why it took us 11 years to really get on our P's and Q's and focus on our student loans. This is really a pattern of broke assness, stupidity, then making some smart decisions to meet the minimum requirement of what we would need for retirement. And that's kind of what got us here. Now, the next question is, how do we proceed and how are we going to move forward now that we've met the minimum requirement for investments to secure the minimum we'll need in retirement? So I don't know. That's a whole nother thing, because that's a whole nother thing. I don't even want to think about it. I actually put a poll up asking about it, and I got some interesting thoughts. But that's going to be Friday's discussion, because a certified financial planner gave me some advice, and I want y'all to hear, what that advice was and get my take on it. Before I get out of here, y'all let me know what y'all think on this. And I put this out in a video on TikTok and on Instagram and out on YouTube. But this is a side note, but I wanted to talk about this. In the United States, mortgage rates are 7%. They're like at a 20-year high, right? And so let me ask, because a lot of times all of us financial freedom guys and financial journey guys and people like that, you hear all the time, save 20%, save 20%, save 20%. I'll be honest, I never really gave my take on this, but I've never purchased a house where I put 20% down. I'm just not doing it. I don't see the point in doing it. I can understand the logic in doing it, but let's talk about your very first house. If you're a homeowner and you purchase your very first house, I don't know. I would like to see, I may need to put a poll up, but how many people who are homeowners actually put 20% down on their first home? I think that number in percentage is very small. So I just don't think a lot of people are doing that. And I think it could be a detriment to you getting your foot in the door as a homeowner. So I'll tell you my general rule and approach I take on your very first home. Now, home number 2, 3, your income is moving up. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree that PMI exists for a reason, but let's just think about it. And I know people who are in this situation right now. They were saving to buy a home for $300,000. Let's say $300,000. I know people who were saving to buy a home in 2020, 2019, going into 2020. Let's say the house cost $300,000. 20% down would be $60,000. At some point in 2020, going into 2021, interest rates were at a record low of 2.25%. I know because I refinanced my mortgage to capitalize on that interest rate. So a person saving up $60,000 for a 20% down payment on a $300,000 home from 2019 going into 2020 could have acquired that loan for a monthly payment of about $1,300 and some change. I don't know exactly, but the number will be $1,300 and some change. We're talking about $900 and some odd dollars for the actual mortgage payment, $400 estimate for PMI insurance and taxes and all of that stuff. Now, let's say you didn't buy that house in 2020. You say, you know what? I'm not going to buy that house in 2020 because I want to get my $60,000, my $20,000, my 20% down on a $300,000 home. Now, fast forward 2022, mortgage interest rates are 7%. So you finally saved up that $60,000. That $300,000 home that you wanted is probably more. Even if it's not more, the interest rate on the money that you're going to borrow is going to be higher. So the first half, you could have got that loan in 2020 at 2.2% using an FHA loan or something to that effect. And you could have got it at 2.2%. Now, 7% on a $300,000 home, if you put $60,000 down, now your monthly payment is almost $2,000 a month. It's a big ass difference. And you have to reevaluate, can I actually afford $2,000 a month? When I did these calculations back in 2019 and 2020, when I was thinking about purchasing a home, I knew that we could afford $1,500, $1,300, something that. But now that the interest rate game changed, it's kind of a different ball game. So I don't know. I think that's a. I don't know. I think that's an interesting take. You know what I mean? I feel like you trying to save that 20% is consistently moving the ball farther and farther out of your reach because property values are likely going to go up, or you're going to stumble upon a time where right now where interest rates are high as hell. I actually did the calculations. If my mortgage payment was 7%, I couldn't afford it. There's no way in hell I could afford it. Like right where my mortgage payment is now, right now, 2.2%. My mortgage is about $2,200 and some change. That's right in my ballpark. That's a small percentage of my take-home pay. Household income we bring in every month is probably about $13,000 and some change. So $2,200 of that is for housing expenses. Like that's something that's really manageable. So I don't know if it's I don't know. I don't know a lot of people. If you bought a first home and the first house you bought, you put $20,000 down. Hey, salute to you because you definitely did it the right way. But I think you could be pushing yourself or pushing the bar farther and farther under some circumstances. Now we know, hey, housing prices, the housing market may collapse and prices may go down. But if prices go down, but interest rates go up, I mean, you're still going to be paying about the same. You know, like, hey, a $300,000 house for 2.25% or a $200,000 house for 7%. Money wise, you're really not going to see that big of a difference. So I think it's a little, interesting. Okay, that's good. That's dope. There, see, if you could put 10% now, I will tell you, any other home I purchase outside of this, there's a strong possibility I'm gonna put $20,000 down because I only feel like this applies for your first home. I feel like with your first home, you got to give people a little bit of flexibility, a little bit of leverage to have something to get your foot in the door. Now, this is all contingent on you not buying a big balling ass mansion. If you go out and buy a big balling ass mansion on an FHA loan to 3%, that's your fault. But if you get a house that's within your budget for your very first home, I'm technically not opposed to putting less than 20% down to secure that very first house. I think that's kind of, my take on it. But yeah. And that could be true. Yeah, I think that's true as well too. I'll tell you, like for my second home, the house that I'm in now. Yeah, this is my. I bought a few houses, but this is the second residential house I purchased. I didn't even like the first house. I didn't even use my VA loan, and VA loan is no down payment. One is the most expensive loan you could possibly get, but I didn't use it for the first house because I just didn't need to. It was again, I never buy houses that are way out of my price range. So it was something that was easy, something I could afford, put a little bit of money down, secured it. Now, in this house, I actually did use my VA loan and I used it that way for a specific reason. When I made this second purchase of this home, it was a foreclosure. So I knew that I had to pay money out of pocket to get some work done. One of the main things was being some sewage work where I had to pay a crap load of money for them to dig up the front yard and redo the pipes and all of that stuff. So because I knew that expense was coming, I said, you know what? Let's just go ahead and use the VA loan for this purchase. Once we use the VA loan, we don't have to make that down payment. We put down a little bit, but it definitely wasn't 20%. But VA loans have no PMI, and the loan processing fee in my instance is waived because I'm a disabled veteran. I qualify as a disabled veteran, so it was advantageous for me from a monetary standpoint to actually use it and, not take advantage of it. So, yeah. 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 I agree. But that, I mean, I think I agree, but that goes back to my point. The house that a person would have been looking for in late 2019 to 2020, they probably could have got into a house that was within their affordability range, used the FHA loan. Even if they were paying a PMI, it probably would have worked out to where they're in a house. If you've been paying, if you've been saving for a down payment from 2019 to currently, you might as well keep saving your down payment and just kind of wait to interest rates shoot down. I mean, I think that would be my approach. Hey, what's going on, D? Thanks for tuning in. But yeah, I think that would kind of be my approach. But it's different schools of thought that people have on stuff that I don't know. Again, I told you I started this video out by telling y'all one of my flaws is that I'm not too receptive of the options and opinions of others. But some things just don't make sense to me. Like I was actually having a comment about health insurance, and I thought this came from like we have to understand whatever privileged situation we are in. You know what I mean? I know everybody's not an attorney or everybody's not making certain income. So you have to be cognizant of how you present things and how you say things because you got to understand that everybody's not in a similarly situated situation. Even though, trust me, I know about being broke and sitting in front of the oven for heat because the damn furnace was broken and couldn't afford to fix it. I know about all that shit, but that's not where I am right now. So I was having a conversation with someone, and that's a smart. Buying that house early, I'm telling you. And that's exactly why, like, I told my wife, after we pay off our student loans in 2.5, 3 years, I said, let's just go ahead and pay this house off. I actually did the mathematic calculations. If we pay about, on a good month, we pay about $3,500. But anywhere from $3,000 to $3,500 is what we pay per month on that student loan. I actually did the math on that. I said, you know what? If we make those payments towards our mortgage, man, we would have our mortgage paid off in like 7.5, 8 years. And with housing prices going up, there's a few things like, what would be the point of moving into another house? Because we don't fall under the mantra of it's our forever home. A house is a house is a house. If you see one that you don't get that you wanted, there'll be another one out there that you like. And most people only stay in them 5 to 7 years. One of the things for me, this sounds kind of corny, but I want to have the house I got is a 6-bedroom house. It was literally the cheapest house on the block too, because it was in foreclosure and had all of these repairs we had to make at the time we purchased it. That's why nobody wanted it. It sat on the market for years. But one of the things with me is, this sounds crazy, but when I'm old and crusty and retire, I want to have a place that's big enough so when my kids come to visit and their kids and their family, everybody could be all in the house and we can all enjoy a couple of times a year together where we're just all under one roof. So for me, it wouldn't make any sense to sell my house to purchase something else that's probably going to be more, probably going to be at a higher interest rate, that's going to be smaller. And years from now, I can't even entertain my family and grandkids in the house. Hell no. I'm definitely, just not doing that. That wouldn't make any sense. 5%. Thank you. Can you please tell your husband that he was right? We appreciate that. Yeah, yeah, y'all be reluctant. You be like, yeah, that was a good idea. Just say it. Be like, you know what? If you, I guarantee you go up to him and just be like, you know what? I was just thinking about something, and I know this is old, but you were right about that. Then just walk out the room. His whole mood gonna be changed. He gonna be happy as hell for the next 3 to 4 days. I guarantee you. Yeah. That's hilarious. But yeah, what I was saying was we have to understand sometimes when we grow financially, we come from a position that's kind of a privileged position that other people may not be able to relate to. So I was having a conversation online with someone in my YouTube community about insurance. And I thought this was, to me, this is just my thought. I was like, damn, that's a really privileged way of looking at it. We were talking about insurance and how important life insurance was. And the person said, I prefer to be self-insured and to invest my premiums. So I prefer to be self-insured and invest what I would be paying for insurance into an investment account. Like, I don't know. That comment to me don't even make any damn sense. I mean, it makes sense, but that's a comment that comes from a very privileged kind of point of view. Like, how many people out there are actually self-insured? How many people out there got enough liquid assets to where if something happened to you, you can pay off, your family can pay off all your debts, pay off the house note, and send the kids to college and have a little bit left over? Like, that's not realistic for probably 95% of people. I don't think most people live like that, but that's what this person's philosophy on insurance. And so, when we were having that conversation, I was like, what? I was like, I said, so how would you invest your premiums if you don't have if you're living, most people live in paycheck to paycheck. 70% of people don't have $1,000 emergency fund. How the hell are they going to be self-insured? So, sometimes we got to be cognizant of where our position is. That's why it sounds weird, but I even watch it, and I watch conversations I have with certain people about certain things because everybody is on a different level. I have a set of friends who I can talk to about investments. I got a set of friends who I can be like, damn, I saw a small apartment complex in rural North Carolina that had 4 units in it and was selling for $700,000. And me and him can have that conversation because he's kind of in that same level when it comes to investment. I could talk about that. But for someone who's not at that level, that's a conversation that I wouldn't even talk about because I try to be cognizant of, one, the optics of me having that conversation with them, unless I'm directly asked about it, or two, I try to be cognizant of someone else's. Now, if someone else who's not in the same fiscal position asks me about it, I'll definitely give them advice about it. But I never just overtly talk about, oh, this is something I want to invest in, unless it's someone I know who's kind of in that like-minded circle, because, I just don't want to be seen as that person who like, oh, this person, even though you're not bragging. And, the video I did where I talked about me having the first conversation with the only first generation millionaire I know in my family. A lot of times they're just explaining their life and what they've done, but people who may not have as much may see it as being bragging or braggish, being boastful or bragging about what they have. So, it's a very interesting, kind of background and dynamic. Yeah, self-insured. Like self-insured, that means your assets and money is so deep that you don't need insurance. If something happened, your family good off the cuff. Like, no, I'm not there yet, and I'm gonna tell y'all right now, even when I get there, I'm still gonna have insurance. You know why? Because in the words of well, not in the words of a wise man, but I'm gonna quote myself, is the money I save for my retirement, I tell my kids, that's for me and your mama to enjoy. Yeah, I'm gonna leave y'all something, but y'all don't need a whole bunch. And that's what the life insurance is for. I renew those term policies. That'll give y'all some coverage. How much I gotta leave y'all? Shit. I mean, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, y'all got some interesting processes over there that make sense that'll probably never get adopted over in the U.S. because too many people are making money from doing it the other way. But that was really the bulk of the conversation. That was our 11-year cycle. Friday is going to be really interesting because one, I already know how I am about certified financial planners and financial advisors. Um, I think they know what they're talking about, but again, I always tell y'all I'm extremely jaded because I've worked and seen the worst of the worst in the financial sector, in the securities sector, in the banking and mortgage services sector. So I generally just don't trust people. But like I said, it's going to be interesting because I'm going to pose a question on how I should proceed in the next step of my debt freedom, financial freedom journey. And I want y'all to check out the advice that Pocket Watcher with JT gave me. And I want y'all to take on it as I evaluate and mull through the options. Because like I said, I'm stubborn and I feel like I always give myself the best advice, which is a very elitist, stubborn way of looking at things. Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate all of y'all tuning in and checking this out. Hey, I'm solely grateful. I'm very appreciative. Y'all make sure y'all take care and make sure if you aren't subscribed, hit the like button, all that good stuff. Y'all be blessed. Have a good night. Or to a select few, y'all have a good morning. Peace.